I'm already 70 years old and my wife is also in her 60s. I long to be by her side again. I want to travel with my wife as soon as possible. He doesn't want to talk about why he is here. He doesn't want to give his name either.
Stop right there. Red flag, red flag, red flag. Red flag, red flag, red flag. All the convicts who are watching know what I'm talking about. No in prison. If anybody does not want to talk about their charges, 99% of the time they are a chomo. And I hate to say that like in a derogatory way, but obviously, hey, that's the most heinous crime that's out there, you know, sex offenders. So the people who say they do not want to talk about their charges got sex crimes. That's a fact, because it's like prison standard that you openly respond to when people ask you what you in for and you show your paperwork just to show that you're not got bad paperwork. So the fact that he's an old guy, and that's another thing too. 90% of the times, bro, when you see old guys in prisons, if they're not convicts who like been in the system forever, a lot of the elderly guys who get sentenced to prison, very, very rarely they're white collar tax fraud crimes or things like that. But the majority of times, they're sex offenders. So this guy not wanting to give his name, not wanting to talk about his charges, 99% chance he's probably a sex offender for sure.
He is too ashamed for being in prison.
Good, man. It's your boy E.I. the King, and this is the Incarceration Podcast, where I talk about prison, pre, post, and present, how everything that I experienced throughout my incarceration has forever changed my life. This is the Incarceration.
All right, good afternoon. This is State of Florida versus Stephen Testo with multiple cases before the court.
Forever Convict family, listen, we are on a journey to 50,000 subs. We are over halfway there. So if you have not yet subscribed, please go ahead and do so. Share this channel with anybody who enjoys prison content. And if you don't know my story, I've done over 12 years in prison. And all throughout my incarceration on this channel, I share the crazy, funny, goofy, weird prison stories, as well as interviewing other convicts and sharing their stories as well. But most importantly, we highlight the redemptive stories of convicts coming home, leaving their past lifestyle of crime, and now living successfully in society.
Fam, what's going on? It's your boy E.I. the King. This is the Incarceration Podcast. Today we are doing a reaction video to another prison outside the country in Taiwan. So we're going to go ahead and check out what prison looks like in Taiwan. Let's go ahead and get to it.
A different world with its own rules.
Absolutely no privacy here.
Zero tolerance.
Prisoners remain in isolation for 1 week to a month.
All this behind bars. Gangs. Violence. Drugs. Harassment. A daily survival of the fittest. In the toughest prisons in the world.
That was a fire intro. Intro was fire.
A metropolis in the west of Taiwan. The small island state is considered one of the safest countries in the world. Nevertheless, more people are behind bars here than in much larger countries, such as Germany, Spain, or Italy. The reason? Drugs. Huge quantities of drugs enter the country every year via the country's ports. In 2022 alone, police confiscated some 10 tons of heroin, cocaine, and amphetamines. The Chinese drug mafia uses the island state for transit. Anyone caught with drugs ends up here in Taichung prison. It's a high-security bunker with space for nearly 5,000 criminals. Escape from here is impossible. Monotony.
For those who know, 5,000, that's a pretty big unit, bro. Definitely a huge prison.
Confinement and around-the-clock video surveillance everywhere dictate the lives of the inmates. Taichung prison is one of the world's toughest prisons. 7 o'clock in the morning is when the head guard, Li Shichang, begins his shift. He has been providing security in Taiwan's largest prison for 30 years.
As every morning, I hope that today will be a quiet day. And I hope that there will be no problems and no security incidents.
After all, the country's most dangerous criminals are imprisoned here. Over 100 life sentences alone, and more than 1,000 prisoners are serving sentences of 20 years or more. The security measures are particularly tight.
This is now the second security check.
This consists of a passage detector, which spots weapons, metal, and cell phones, as well as a further check by security officers. Only those who are absolutely clean are allowed into the prison. The guards work in 3 shifts. During the day shift, 210 guards are responsible for the current 4,500 prisoners.
Attention! Roll call.
Just let me stop there real quick. So look, 5,000 incarcerated individuals, 210 staff. That's a huge staff. But you can see that's, the inmate population times 10 over exceeds staff. Just food for thought.
6、7、8、9、10、11、12、13、14、15、16、17、18。对，接班。
The guards are now deployed to the various cell blocks. The prison has a total of 6 cell blocks. Each block is a small prison of its own, which the inmates hardly ever leave. In Unit Shao, there are almost 500 prisoners taking part in special rehabilitation programs.
Unashamed about all that time you did? Go ahead and grab your Forever Convict tee, where we're unashamed to share how our incarceration is what God chose to use to radically transform our life. And even though society may deem us as convicts, I'm not ashamed of what God used throughout that season of incarceration to make me to be the man who I am today. Forever Convict.
Next to it, Unit I, the largest block in the mega prison with 1,100 inmates. And Unit Yi, for prisoners with medium to long sentences. Unit Xing is a block where mainly drug criminals are held. The prison's isolation wing is also located here. Unit Ren, with 1,000 prisoners, the second largest block. Unit Chung, a block exclusively for HIV-infected prisoners. Next to it is the prison hospital. At the other end of the 200...
I've never heard that, ever. I've never heard of the incarcerated population who was HIV positive being separate from the rest of the population. Never heard of that. It's pretty interesting.
100,000 square meter mega prison is the kitchen. 15,000 meals are prepared here daily. Everyday life in Taiwan's toughest prison is strictly timed. Unit Xing is the drug wing. 7:15 sharp. The prisoners are given their breakfast. Soy milk and rice rolls. A nutritious and, above all, inexpensive meal. Food is eaten in the cell, on the floor. There is no table. 8 prisoners are housed here in just under 20 square meters. One of them is Huang, prisoner 5523, sentenced to 11 years for amphetamine trafficking.
You get used to cramped conditions. Sometimes the cells are even more crowded. Then it gets really uncomfortable. But it's okay as it is now.
On average, each prisoner has just 2 square meters of space. There are beds only for those at the top of the cell hierarchy. The rest have to sleep on mats on the floor. Even with windows and a fan, the air in the cells is stifling and stuffy.
I hope to get out early. I'll find out next month.
After breakfast, cleaning is compulsory. This is to prevent pests and diseases from spreading among the prisoners. The cell's toilet also serves as a sink, shower, and bathroom for the men. Huang and his cellmates stock up on water. This is because the water is turned on only twice a day for 2 hours.
At the beginning, it's extremely difficult to learn the ropes. You have to adapt.
Dang, that's crazy. I'm sure they're probably just trying to cut prices on the water bill. Water's only cut on for 2 hours a day, so they gotta stock it throughout the day. It's pretty crazy. And also too, I noticed that they said that the bunks were reserved for the cell hierarchy. In other words, they don't assign people's bunks. In a lot of states, they do that for the purpose of try to stop conflict of people like trying to fight for bunks, because each inmate is assigned a bunk. But it's pretty, I won't say surprising, but it's unique that, they let them handle that. So you know what that means.
That took a long time for me. I compare life here to that of a soldier. It's a bit like the military. You just work. But the worst thing is that you have no privacy.
Not only are the prisoners in close quarters with their cellmates around the clock, but they're also permanently exposed to the watchful eye of the guards. Each cell is under constant camera surveillance.
There is no place here where you are not observed. That is sometimes very difficult, especially when I'm in a bad mood or sad. Writing helps me. I write letters to my family, my brother, and my girlfriend too.
The orange vest means Huang is cell boss. This helps him to earn the guards' favor, but it doesn't make him any friends. Nearly half of all prisoners here have been convicted of drug trafficking or possession. This also affects the work of head guard Li Shijang.
In contrast to the past, the prisoners have changed. They're more educated and intelligent and behave accordingly. But that doesn't make them harmless. They're still criminals, but in a different way, rather sneaky.
For the guards, this means always being vigilant.
There are no special events planned for today. Please take good care of yourself, make sure you have your baton with you, and don't hesitate to use it in an emergency. Everything all right? Have a good day.
The 600 prisoners in the block are about to go to work. Tension among the guards is rising.
The most dangerous moment is now, when the prisoners go to work. We all have to be in position and remain vigilant. The prisoners have a lot of time to think during the night. You never know what they'll be like in the morning. It's always possible that someone will suddenly become mentally unstable and flip out. That's why we have to be particularly vigilant now, so there's no incident when the cells are all open.
To keep the situation under control, the guards let the prisoners out of the cells one by one, and only in small groups. Each of the prison's 6 blocks is designed in such a way that prisoners do not have to leave it. The workplaces, known as factories, are located within the blocks. Work is compulsory for everyone in Taichung prison. Gluing bags and plugging cables is supposed to give the prisoners a daily structure and prepare them for a regular life after prison. They are paid just $30 a month.
Let me say a few things. So number one, the compound actually looked pretty nice. Even their cells didn't look too bad. Look pretty clean. Looks pretty new. And $30 a month is actually very good. Number one, in a lot of state prisons in the nation, you don't get paid. Normally, it's more federal prisons where you get paid. But the state jobs that do get paid, normally on average, it's like $50, and those are the high-end paid jobs. So $30 a month, everybody, that's not bad at all. And plus, too, it keeps you busy working. You know what I mean? So even though it's kind of like slave labor pretty much still, I'm sure they'd rather be working than being stuck in a cell all day. That's a fact.
When the prisoners work in the factories, we rarely have problems. The inmates usually behave well, especially towards me. After all, I'm the one who makes sure they're doing well. I help them if they have problems. However, they need to behave respectfully. If they don't, they face the consequences.
The prison works with what is known as progressive correctional treatment. This means that prisoners are divided into 4 levels. The better a prisoner behaves, the higher their level. And this determines, for example, how many packs of cigarettes a prisoner can buy and how often he is allowed to have visitors. The most important thing, however, is that the length of imprisonment is reduced with each level obtained. For most prisoners, this is a good reason to cause as little trouble as possible. The laws in Taiwan are strict. There are no exceptions. Prisoner 1971 also had to learn this. He used to be a high-ranking military officer. Now he is serving 5 years in prison. How you fare here always depends on your performance and on yourself. I just hope that I can spend time with my family again soon. I'm already 70 years old and my wife is also in her 60s. I long to be by her side again. I want to travel with my wife as soon as possible. He doesn't want to talk about why he is here. He doesn't want to give his name either.
Stop right there. Red flag, red flag, red flag. Red flag, red flag, red flag. All the convicts who are watching know what I'm talking about. No in prison. If anybody does not want to talk about their charges, 99% of the time they are a chomo. And I hate to say that like in a derogatory way, but obviously, hey, that's the most heinous crime that's out there, you know, sex offenders. So the people who say they do not want to talk about their charges got sex crimes. That's a fact, because it's like prison standard that you openly respond to when people ask you what you went for and you show your paperwork just to show that you're not got bad paperwork. So the fact that he's an old guy, and that's another thing too. 90% of the times, bro, when you see old guys in prisons, if they're not convicts who like been in the system forever, a lot of the elderly guys who get sentenced to prison, very, very rarely they're white collar tax fraud crimes or things like that. But the majority of times they're sex offenders. So this guy not wanting to give his name, not wanting to talk about his charges, 99% chance he's probably a sex offender for sure.
He is too ashamed for being in prison. At the beginning, I was terrified of prison. I had imagined it would be much worse. When I arrived here, it wasn't like what I thought. There was nothing bad, no abuse or anything. You're just locked up.
I also have a fire HBO style series chronologically going over my prison experience from day one, all throughout my 12 years in prison. But you got to become a member to this channel. If you're on desktop, that's the only way you can do it. If you're on a mobile phone, you got to do it through Safari, or you got to go to your internet app and become a member. Check out a brief clip right here.
He's not directly addressing me. He's not directly addressing anybody. He's just saying it loudly about all the new people. And we weren't the only new people who came in that day. There's people who came in before us. But I'm thinking still he's going to be the one that tries me. So he goes and he sits down, and I'm sitting on the bench, and all of a sudden someone approaches me. I'm sitting on the outside of the bench and someone stands right over me.
He still has around 3 years to go before.
That boy was worried about being tortured. That's what he was worried about.
For he, with good guidance, can be with his family again. Those who behave impeccably can apply for a place in Unit Chao. Instead of doing dull and monotonous work, prisoners here take part in art programs. One of them is 53-year-old Lai. He used to have his own nightclub. He also dealt drugs there until the police caught him and arrested him. He has been in Taichung prison for 9 years, but previously did time in another prison.
I've always loved painting, and then I took the chance and applied for this program. And since I have a talent for it, they took me on. I like being here in the workshop. I enjoy it, and I worked hard for the entrance test.
For him, working in the art workshop is a kind of escape from harsh reality.
When I paint, I can forget. It's very liberating. I dive into another world and forget where I am at the moment.
Prisoners are in the workshop from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Here, too, everything is designed so that they don't have to leave the room for anything. Laundry, toilets, showers, everything is done on site. Under the watchful eye of the cameras and guards, of course. They aim to identify problems before a situation has a chance to escalate.
A good relationship with the prisoners is important to us. We try to get to know them as well as possible and understand how they think, how they feel. That way we can better recognize when something is wrong or something is bothering them. Each month, we also have one-to-one meetings with them. There, they can tell us everything they don't want others to hear.
Like informing on other inmates and thereby earn points. But these preventive measures don't always help. In 2015, there was a hostage situation in another Taiwanese prison that ended in 6 deaths. Since then, guards have been even more cautious here, too.
All right, so it's crazy that they actually let them live in that little program, you know, where they do the work at. And it seems like they got obviously better space, better living conditions. So that's pretty cool for them. But you hear what they said about they have their one-on-ones, I guess, like their therapy sessions, but really they're just trying to get people to snitch. And they actually give them points, which probably gives them like sentence reductions. So boy, they incentivize snitching, bro. There's people in there telling left and right. So that's smart on the administration's end. But that definitely is going to make it much more conflicting amongst the convict population.
Each of us has a baton on our person. We use it to protect ourselves, and if a person behaves violently, we also have pepper spray. In an emergency, there's also an alarm button at the back. We set off the alarm and go outside and lock the door behind us.
Anyone who causes trouble ends up here in the isolation wing.
This is one of the isolation cells. Depending on what the prisoners have done, they stay here for between a week and 1 month.
1 window, 1 toilet, and otherwise bare tiled walls. That's what awaits all troublemakers in prison. And of course, the cells here are also under round-the-clock camera surveillance.
As you can see up there, we give the prisoners tasks to do during their time in isolation. They are given books to read. That calms them down. They can sit down or lie down and read.
It's a very effective treatment. Most prisoners only end up here once. Meanwhile, the prison...
Bro, that's that pressure. The fact that they get them books, though, and assignments is definitely helpful because those who know, bro, going to SEG, the SHU, confinement, the box, whatever you want to call it, is torture sucks. And especially when you're in a unit to where, man, you ain't getting no books, no tablet, no nothing. You're lucky if you get a Bible. That's hard time. All right, so that's it for now, man. This is part 1. Just doing a reaction video, checking out a prison in Taiwan. Once again, it's your boy, the King. This is the Incarceration Podcast. Y'all tap in for the next video. Peace.
If you didn't know, I am a rapper. My artist name is the King. Check out my music on all streaming platforms. Go to my other YouTube channel, the King. Check out my music videos. And I'm also releasing a documentary all year. It's really a docu-series. And every Wednesday, I drop a new video. As we've been documenting my transition home from prison and society, from the day of my release, we had a film crew at the gate just documenting my transition home from prison, now in society. Check it out on one of these links above.